Good morning. Happy Thursday? Time flies when you're having fun. Anyway, I noticed yesterday that there had been activity in James Freeman's Fort Huachuca case. Wasn't anticipating it, so some lovely folks in my Discord decided to pull the documents, and a couple interesting little tidbits. Number one, the government disclosed to James Freeman's counsel that the officer who arrested Freeman back in, I think, March of 2018 was terminated by the government in August of 2018. And since that would be the government's main witness, the defense wanted to throw that into their motion to dismiss. Now, again, motions to dismiss in criminal actions are disfavored, and if you're having to throw evidence in, like pictures of where James Freeman allegedly was, it's not a good sign for winning. I'm not saying that James couldn't have won on it. I'm just saying that the odds were well against him, and I didn't think, personally, I wouldn't have been persuaded if I was a judge, even though I am on Freeman's side in this, in that I think he didn't commit a crime. They're just really, I mean, it's just not a motion to dismiss kind of thing. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. So James Freeman's team wanted to add that to their motion to dismiss, and the judge allowed them to add that to their motion to dismiss. The judge allowed them to amend their motion to include that information. So that's great and dandy. And then on the 9th, so just a few days ago, the government went ahead and filed a motion to dismiss without prejudice. If the government files a motion to dismiss, there's pretty good odds that the motion to dismiss will be granted. Now, there is, of course, a question, or a couple questions. Number one, whether or not Freeman's team will oppose it. Somehow I don't think that Freeman's team is going to oppose the government's motion to dismiss, which means that the government's motion to dismiss will most likely be granted. James Freeman's motion will not. But I don't know. I'm guessing at this point they may oppose the government's motion. I don't know. If the government's motion goes through, it is without prejudice, which means that the government can refile the information and complaint, which means that they could reinstitute proceedings against Freeman. Now, will they, is the big question. And don't know. I am not a psychic. Legally, they could, I could tell you that. But whether or not it's in the government's interest to, I personally don't think it's in the government's interest, because as long as the issue of whether or not you could film the gates of Fort Huachuca, until that's resolved, the government can continue to harass and annoy and detain, etc., people who are doing nothing more than filming the gates to a military base. I would caution everybody who thinks that the government filing a motion to dismiss is a win for the First Amendment. It is not. They're not saying that he did nothing wrong. They're not saying, oh, we're going to go ahead and file a motion to dismiss with prejudice, which means we're never going to bring charges because we know that this cat was cool and he didn't do a damn thing wrong. No, they're not saying that. It is absolutely not a win for the First Amendment, and anybody else, like I just mentioned previously, can still be brought up on charges for filming the gates of a fort base, etc. And no, if Freeman's motion to dismiss is granted, then that would also not be a win for the First Amendment, because the next guy can be brought up. Just because James didn't factually whatever do X, Y, or Z doesn't mean that it is now acceptable 100% to film the gates of a military base. So you guys get to continue to decide whether or not these people are actually fighting for your freedoms. I submit to you still that the vast majority of them are not. And most of them are doing things that are antithetical to either your freedoms or your privileges, etc. Thanks for watching. Have a great morning.